Yesterday we had two, possibly three terrorist attacks. The first one was in New Orleans, where we had is a former soldier doing a car attack where he. We saw this in Germany in a Christmas village just recently. We're using a vehicle as a weapon, and he ran over and killed 15 people. Then we had a cyber truck, and apparently this was also carried out by a military person, as far as we know right now. A cyber truck bombed at Truck Tower in Nevada, and then there's a mass shooting in New York City. I remember over 20 years ago, I was in Syria when 9/11 happened. I was just arrived. I was visiting some Aramaic-speaking Christian villages in September 11th, 2001. And then I was over in Syria and I watched the attack on the World Trade Tower. And when I saw that, I was very concerned that we just could have one attack after another all across the country. And the radical left is out of power right now. And think about what these people did with the power that they had. We've seen out of control inflation. We've seen open border, 30 million people brought in, hyperinflation. They don't care about the consequences of regular people, how their policies affect them. It's about authoritarianism and totalitarianism and control, and them achieving absolute control and power for themselves. So these people have no concern about the effects of their policies on their average American. All they care about is acquisition of power for themselves and implementing the radical left-wing agenda. So back to 2001, I was very concerned. It's like you just see, terrorist attacks every day, several a day from one side of the coast to the other, because they brought into our country radical Muslims have no business being here. And for the past 4 years, our borders have been 100% just open. Anybody that just walks across the border gets to stay. So we probably had, they say 10 to 12. I don't understand why they're playing around. Let's just say how many people are actually here. We probably have 100 million people who have no right to be in our country now, because we already had 30 to 60 illegal aliens before Biden took office. Now we have 30 million more. And I was thinking about this election and how Trump won, but I mean, we knew what we're going to get, right? If these people remain in power, we had 30 million illegal aliens come in 4 years. We have 30 million more if Harris remained in office. You think inflation's bad now? I mean, we just cannot go on the way we've been going for 4 years. And I don't understand these white liberals, that want to impose this on. Well, it doesn't affect them. That's the thing. It doesn't affect them. So we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of Al Qaeda terrorists just walk across our country, and this government, this regime, the Obama Biden Harris regime, has knowingly released apprehended illegal aliens who are Al Qaeda terrorists. They've apprehended and released them to the general public. I mean, they've been exposed for this and honest about it. It's horrible. So we potentially have thousands. And we do see a decline in radical Islam, but if you just crunch the numbers, man, let's just say that only 10% is more than that of Muslims have radical beliefs. You're looking at thousands of people, and around the world, we're looking at millions of people. That's why we got to take the ideology of radical Islam very, very seriously. And these people don't. And with Muslims, they have the rules. The radical left has a rule. Rules for thee, but not for me. Looks like a Barack Hussein Obama. His ideology is he's a gay Islamo-Marxist. That's what he is. And you look at it, it's like, well, they look how they treat homosexualities over there. Well, it's a rules for thee, but not for me. So Obama is a homosexual, where he supports. It's obvious he supports this radical homosexual ideology and transgenderism. I mean, that's opposed to Islam, but Obama is a Muslim. He's a gay Islamo-Marxist. Look at the title of his book, Dreams from My Father. What was his father? His father was a radical Marxist Muslim. That's what his father was. So we have this rules for thee, but not for me. Look at Ilhan Omar. I mean, she wears a hijab. And I think that we should oppose the wearing the women should no woman should have to wear a hijab. It's demeaning. It's degrading. It's just stating that they're saying that they are inferior to men by wearing a. It's a mark of inferiority. It's an outrage. It's a symbol of oppression. But it's also by wearing a hijab in the West, they're showing that they're not going to integrate into society. That they're hostile to their. They came over there to conquer it. That it's a political symbol. Hijab is a political symbol. Showing their allegiance to a system that oppresses them, but a system that they want to dominate, control, and overcome and overthrow their host country. So these people need to be just. There's a government of a society is responsible to protect its citizens and to perpetuate that culture and civilization. And they become hostile to those means, especially in Europe. We see it right now. But let's go back to Ilhan Omar, right? So she almost was voted out of office, but these people, we have, unfortunately, a lot of voter fraud in this country. They're not going to allow her to be out of power, to lose power. So look at her. She wears this hijab, but she married her brother. This is a fact. This woman, probably for vote for immigration fraud, but also for her, for it's incestuous. However you look at it, this is an incestuous thing she did, and voter fraud. So she comes over here and she engages in, marries her brother in an incestuous relationship, and she engages in voter fraud, and she wears. She also is, it's a free country. She can do what she wants to do, but she's obviously, sexually promiscuous. She's having sex with non-Muslim men, with professed, so-called Christian men. So if Ilhan Omar did the things she's doing in the United States in Somalia, she would be stoned, right? But it's the rules for thee, but not for me. So she can be sexually promiscuous, which gets you stoned in Somalia with Sharia law, and she can, have an incestuous relationship with her own brother, to go so far as marry her own brother. Uh, that's okay for her, but in Somalia, she would support people doing the exact same thing. Like, Newsweek magazine had this cover when he was president. The first gay president, Obama. They're lauding him. They had a halo with a rainbow halo on it. So he's advocating this political movement of homosexuality. So, and that's anti-Islam, but he's still pro-Muslim. And see, Obama doesn't support nominal or moderate Islam. He supports radical Islam around the world. He doesn't have to live under it, but he wants to support it further because he's one of these ruling elites, our betters, and he can do whatever he wants. He can insulate himself from the effects of his policies and the suffering that it causes. This is true of Democrats in the United States of America, but it's also a global policy for him. Remember, I mean, this is very shocking. We could have helped liberate the people of Iran in 2009 when there was a big they had a stolen election in Iran, and you had this massive uprising, and then Obama comes out and says, "I stand not with the people of Iran, I stand with the mullahs," because he wants to support, because he has a see he's not his cultural identity is non-American. He grew up in a madrasa in Indonesia. I mean, it's a fact. It was he went to a Muslim. He's identified as Muslim in his legal documents in Indonesia, but he's a homosexual, or he's a homosexual, and he's a supporter of homosexual ideology. So what I'm saying, and look at Obama. He supports radical Muslim extremist groups around the world. He engineered the Muslim Brotherhood takeover of Egypt, which eventually collapsed, but he engineered it regardless. Um, so we have Ilhan Omar. She wears the hijab, and she doesn't want to live under Islamic law, but she'll support. I mean, they don't care that Muslims would take homosexuals, according to Sharia law, and throw homosexuals off the top of buildings. They're not going to report on it. The liberal news media is not going to report on it, and he's not going to say a thing about it. He doesn't care about that, right? Because it's a rules for thee but not for me thing. And Ilhan Omar can wear a hijab, but she's free from living that way. She's living however she wants. She's being sexually promiscuous. Like I said, I mean, it's the hypocrisy, right? So you're wearing a symbol of oppression of women, and yet you're living a decadent lifestyle. So these people will not live according to these rules. but they'll impose them on others. So that's why we see the radical left not supporting Islamic reform, not supporting Muslim moderates. In fact, actually opposing them. I mean, Muslims who address the problem of extremism, they've identified them as these like the Southern Poverty and other radical left wing hate groups is what they really are, extremist groups. I mean, they've attacked moderate Muslims even. They want radical Islam. So what does this mean? The left seems to be there. They're like lost power, right? So what are they going to do? If they want power and control, and they'll use whatever means they have available to do it. And we also have to look at the danger and the corruption of the FBI, the corruption of our military forces, and the political corruption of so-called law enforcement. So under the Biden administration, they had an extremism stand down. Were they going after radical leftist extremism? No. Are they going after radical Muslim extremism? No. They're going after MAGA in the military. They wanted all MAGA people out of the military. They had the Patriot Purge of the military under the Biden administration. You have this radical leftist, Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, going after Trump supporters in the military and putting them out. Traditionalist conservatives out of the military, to weaken and divide America. He's supporting wokeism, supporting transgenderism in the military, and radicalism, critical race theory, other left-wing ideologies, forcing our soldiers to learn this nonsense to dilute the power and the military readiness and effectiveness of the military. So that's what's going on right now, and this pushing radical leftism. But we do have apparently we got a lot of radical Muslims in the military, or leftist sympathizers, like this man who from Houston. I'm from the Houston area, who carried out this heinous attack in New Orleans. And also, it seems as of now that there is someone in a elite military unit up in, I guess, Colorado, who carried out this attack in Las Vegas. So, what the left could be resorting to, and corrupt forces within the FBI. Look at Christopher Wray's FBI. I mean, how they went after it. I mean, look at the military, but also the FBI from coast to coast, using January 6th as a pretense. I mean, the whole power of the FBI has been mobilized to go after Trump supporters for the past 4 years. That's going into traditionalist Catholic Church because they're pro-life. They're targeting the Catholic Church. They're targeting Latin Rite Catholics. What do they call it? They talk about right-wing domestic extremism, conservatives. So-called white nationalism. The other thing they obsess about? White Christian nationalism. That's what they've been opposing, not legitimate threats to our country from radical Islam. They just opened the border and allowed potentially tens, if not hundreds of thousands of radical Muslims to walk across the country. And now that they're out of power, they might be working with them. I mean, there's a lot of evidence to believe. If you look at some of the court proceedings in the Rittenhouse, that young man who was attacked and shot in self-defense, and he was arrested for carrying out self-defense. But it looks like the FBI has been working with Antifa and BLM. I mean, this is a left-wing extremist organization, the FBI. And now we have 20 days before we get reform in there. If they allow the Trump administration to take power, that's questionable. I mean, we saw Trump shot in the face already. What lengths will these people go to prevent representative government from taking place and relinquishing power? They're not going to relinquish power. And if they don't have political power, the radical left will resort to violence. And we could be seeing that. And that's why we need to change now and hold these people accountable now. And I mean, we've had weakness and ineptitude in the Republican Party for far too long. And it's time for us to take a stand to keep our citizens safe. Seal the border, we have to do massive deportations. And we have to have this also is related to the Assyrian Christians and their plight. The world community can't just sit back and allow ethnic cleansing and genocide against Armenians and Assyrians and other Christian groups in the Middle East. We're going to say no, and we can't allow. One of the things that's happened the past longer than more like 40 years. You have the corruption, the academic establishment, where it's left wing, it's political. I mean, just look at you have October 7th in Israel, and then you have all these mobs of students, rioting in support of Hamas, a radical terrorist group. It's horrible. We have corruption in academia, in the news media. Look at Biden, has advanced dementia, senile, and just decrepit mentally, physically, and the news media supported and protected this regime, which I think we're going to find out pretty soon. It's an unelected regime. So, when they're doing things like that, they need to be held legally culpable and face consequences for what they did. This is a danger to our nation. What's happened in the past 4 years, what's happening now. And so 3 terrorists, this could be their plan, the FBI, the CIA, the so-called deep state. Okay, we're going to be out of power, so we're just going to unleash hell on the country. We're going to allow, was it Grapevine, outside of Dallas, they had this, like a convention protesting radical Islam. And they had this Draw the Prophet Muhammad contest. And the FBI recruited a terrorist, and they actually drove him. They drove him to this event to carry out a mass shooting. And the local security at that event sprung an action and took out these terrorists. But that's very disturbing that actually happened. What was the level of, and then we don't know because they cover it up. They won't, the FBI has a law unto themselves. There's no oversight or real oversight or accountability for what the FBI does. And how long has the FBI been left wing? Well, they didn't like a Republican president who won an overwhelming election in 1973, 72, 73. The FBI used its power to overthrow the Nixon administration and then put in, people talk about unelected. They got rid of Spiro Agnew and they put in someone who was part of the Warren Commission, one of their minions, Gerald Ford. So it's like, oh, the American people voted for Nixon. We don't like him. Let's misuse our powers to, put somebody we want. We don't care what the American people want. We want what we want. And they've been out of control for over 50 years, left wing and out of control. So what's going to happen now? We need to wake up to what's going on. We can't mince words. We need to speak the truth. How can we had this, the international war on terror. That's what they called it. Well, it wasn't an international war on terror. It's international war on Islamic terror. But you couldn't say that. And we had Lao Tzu, The Art of War. How do you win a war? You have to know your enemy. We can't even talk about who our enemy is. How can we expect to ever win? And that's why we've had, another thing this administration, this regime has done, this ruling junta, is the level of censorship over, online censorship. Anybody that says anything, the FBI will tell these social media platforms to take your account down or, suppress the viewership of your posts. With Twitter files, they're spending $30 million of our they take $30 million of our taxpayer money to silence us online on Twitter. Now, with Elon Musk, things seem to be changing for right now. But this is a very serious situation. We can't hope to have victory over it if we don't speak out against it. The reality of the situation we're in, we have to have people who are bold enough to speak out against it. This is about saving people's lives and stopping this horrific evil. The past few years, Islam has actually been in decline. There's they're saying that Iran, if on these polls are taking, is not really is a majority Muslim country anymore. That a lot of people, you can't say it, but they've taken these anonymous polls, and they found that in Iran, people are leaving Islam. They're converted to Christianity. They're becoming non-religious. uh, non-observant, or actually converting to other religions, including the traditional Islamic religion of Zoroastrianism. Um, so we see this as a phenomenon in the Middle East, and this has been going on for some time. But they're not allowing people to talk about these things, and the left wants to empower, especially the Obama administration, empower radical Islam. One of the things about them, I was thinking about this, is like while their numbers decrease and their hold on society lessens, the radical Muslims, they could become even more dangerous because they become desperate, right? They're losing, not only they're not, they have a goal of Islamic imperialism. They want to take over the world. That's the mandate Muhammad gave them, to conquer the world for Allah and for Islam. And if if they're starting to lose traditional Muslim communities, becoming less observant and actually leaving Islam, either secretly or overtly, what are they going to do? They're going to resort to violence because they're desperate. So the left is out of power, and they're resorting to violence. We see it now. This is very expected. If they're not gonna be able to, because it's about hurting people. They take the light and hurting people. The Democrat Party does. They're trying to create neo-feudalism. That's what Marxism is. It's a system of oppression. Look how it was implemented in the Soviet Union. You have the ruling 1%, living in, well, everyone else lives in squalor. They live in luxury. We see the same thing with Venezuela today. That's what Marxism is. It's an authoritarian system of oppression, system of control. And if they don't have control, that creates misery and suffering. If they're not able to create misery and suffering through controlling the levers of power, then they'll evolve into terrorist organizations and carry out violence, like we see in campuses already. But this is my fear that they would do once they're out of power. They're not going to just give up power, and if they're forced to, then they'll resort to violence. And we've seen them doing this already, Antifa, BLM, and I suspect we're going to find out. But there's reasons to believe that the whole COVID thing was a genetically engineered biological weapon unleashed on the people of the world, and millions of people died around the world. They don't care about that. They don't care about. They hold human life cheap, and they'll do anything to take power, to maintain power and control. They think they don't really have ethics or morals. Sometimes they don't really believe in these systems. You got in the left, you got true believers, but a lot of the people in control, all they really care about is, well, they want to destroy Christianity. That's one of the things they care about. But the only thing they could care about is holding on to maintaining power and control over the masses, because they think they're better than you, they're smarter than you, they're more sophisticated, all these other things. But this is a terrible danger we're facing in our country and around the world, and we have to be honest about it. We need to stand with Jesus Christ. We need to stand with with Western civilization, what represents the ideals in our United States Constitution. These people are hostile to these things: human dignity, human freedom, the value of all human lives, including those of the unborn. What is revealed in Scripture through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. These are the things that are under attack. This is a great spiritual warfare: light versus darkness, good versus evil. And I'm afraid that we've had a reign of terror. That's what I've been calling the last 4 years, but it could be very bad the next 3 weeks before. This is what it could be. We could be in for a wild ride. I remember, I need to close with this, but when Rush Limbaugh was still alive during Trump's first administration, people are, they're getting all. You have to stand resolute against these people. We're going against evil people that seek us harm, and this isn't a fight we asked for. It's not a fight we want, but it's a fight we're in, and it's a fight for survival. And people got upset because the Republicans in D.C., they want to, rally their base and make all these promises how they're going to fight for, us. They don't care about us. Once they get to D.C., they want to go to the cocktail parties. They want to be in the in crowd. They want to have the accolades and respect, and so they're not willing to fight, to actually take a stand. And this is when Trump was in office. Rush Limbaugh would, because media is hysterical every night. Stormy Daniels this, Stormy Daniels that, all this nonsense. The country is doing better than it ever had done. great prosperity, peace in the Middle East. And the news media was losing their, Jim Acosta was screaming and yelling, jumping around, acting like a 2-year-old every night. I mean, madness is, you turn on the TV and just these people are, fuming and screaming and yelling, acting like children because Trump was an effective president, and they're trying to destroy him desperately. And Trump, this is a Rush Limbaugh would say, look, this is what fighting back looks like, folks. It's not pretty. And we defeated these people in an election despite voter fraud. We won, but these people don't respect the electoral process, and they'll do anything, and they have a lot to lose. They have a lot to lose. I was thinking if they allowed Trump to, if they allowed the election results to stand in 2020, allowed Trump to have 2 terms back to back, that would have derailed their plans, and caused them to be out of power potentially for decades, which might happen again now. So they can't afford to let that happen, and they'll do anything in their power. And they have these corrupt agencies, and that's what we have to play hardball, folks. It's like, oh, we don't like Pete Hegseth. They say we don't like Matt Gaetz. We don't like Kash Patel. But these are the kind of people we need to preserve America, because it's under attack. I wish it wasn't, but it is. This is the situation that we're in. This card we've been dealt with, and one good thing is the news media. I mean, CNN, nobody watches anymore. They've lost a lot of their power and influence, and that's good because people are finally starting to see what's really happening. It's like, when you're doing okay or making it, and they're screaming about how bad Trump is, it's like, okay, these people are out of their ever-loving minds. Let's just get, people they're trying to portray Scranton Joe from moderate Joe from Scranton. I'm trying to say. So maybe this will make these people calm down. That's why people allowed the regime to seize power in 2020. Just some people. Let's just let these people just quiet down. Get a moderate, so-called moderate. He's not a moderate. He's a left-wing extremist in power. But the thing is, the policies hurt the American people. Hyperinflation, 30, 40, 50, 100%, 200% inflation, crime in the streets, open border. How to come into your community? You have to pay for these policies, and of course, people push back against that. So it affected people, and people pushed back. But these people don't care about the people. All they care about is power, prestige, control. So we have to, and it's not going to be easy. We have to fight back. Otherwise, war, chaos, instability, poverty. So you have to make it. What side are you going to stand on? Are you going to stand for America, stand for Constitution, stand for liberty, or tyranny, crime, chaos? I mean, like I said, what's going to be the effect? We've had 30 million illegal aliens cross our border, and now we have to pay for it in different ways. Our veterans are dying in the street. Americans are dying in the street. They don't care about that. They don't even get reported. But we have to pay, illegal aliens, put them in a hotel, $500 a night hotel at your expense. And, if you don't like it, then they call you, you're a hateful, racist, whatever they're going to call you. But are we going to stand for it anymore? We have to stand up and push back. And I guess we kind of gave the middle finger in 2024 election. But these people aren't just going to, relinquish power. They're not. And it's one of the problems we have with Obama. It's like, oh, well, Obama's really lost his influence. He's not going to stop. He's a maniacal megalomaniac, and he believes all this stuff they tell about him, that he's this transformational. He's the Messiah. He's the anointed one. He's a transformational. He has to be dealt with. All these people have to be dealt with, and it's not going to be easy. And if they don't have their way, our intelligence agencies, they're going to allow, their allies in the radical Islam to have their way. That's what's happening. It's happening, and we have to stop it. So one of the things we have to do is just speak the truth and be firm for the preservation of our way of life. Do you like America? Do you like being free? Do you like having opportunities? Do you like to have a world in which your children can potentially do better than you, instead of having a cycle of decline and poverty like we see around a lot of places in the world? So it's time to stand up and push back and at least tell the truth about what's going on. And Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free."